Welcome back. Uh, my face may be a little flushed, a little bit warm out here, and yep, all the practices, all the techniques, all the resources in the arsenal that I provide to you, I use myself, and I was doing some shadow work on myself. Um, had some releasing to do in a loving, conducive manner. Um, so my face in composure is going to shift into stillness and back to neutrality. And we're going to branch on the state of expanded consciousness and awareness of that expanded consciousness and understanding. In every spiritual realm that is out there in ordinary reality has some capacity or ceremony, ritual, practice that guides you into a process to elevate yourself to a spiritual knowing. Some of us may only receive it as face value or read it as words on a page. Some of us may have been misinformed of the content that we were provided. So I want to go into what catalysts are out there that are available to help assist you if you desire to expand into higher consciousness of knowing. Enlightened statement, okay? And I don't mean statement as producing words or sentences, but state of being, okay? Expanding the state of opened, heightened consciousness requires a still mind. If your mind is chaotic, possibly enduring an internal conflict or a conflict within your environment, it's highly recommended to come back to a place of calm and neutrality, so that if anything comes into your awareness, you are not being reactive, but you are being observant in a higher status of mind, okay? And this is for your own well-being as well. Some plants out there, some substances may contribute to the practice of breaking into that plateau of expanded consciousness. This is where you may interpret spiritual archetypes, things that you give an identity to that have become a personified character within your file cabinet. Okay? This is why I recommended shadow work prior to, so that you are not fearful of that which you might observe. Okay? We are non-reactive, we are just observant, and then when it comes into our view, we are expressing and releasing that which does not serve us or for our greater potential to come out. Okay? Some of these plants or substances you may have heard of or might have a restriction on, because they do have the capacity to alter the chemical catalysts of the receptors, and it attaches to the receptor cells that is already within you, creating a connection. Okay? We don't typically operate on this capacity because if we are driving a vehicle or operating machinery, or we're in a capacity where we have to be completely alert to ordinary reality, these can come into a complicated process where you're having a difficulty distorting between normal, ordinary reality of third dimension and branching off into other states of consciousness within this dimension and within higher dimensions and lower dimensions. Okay, highly, highly, highly recommended to not utilize any of these substances, plants, or medicinal herbs without someone nearby. A lot of times there will be retreats out there that use sacred ceremonies to bring you into a heightened state of consciousness. But it's with a medical team that's on site, and they are constantly evaluating your physiological signs of either distress or normalcy during that practice. Only certain areas are allowed to do it under licensing practice. Okay, you can probably find a retreat out there that might utilize something that you might be looking for, but you may be getting more out of that experience than what you thought you were going to get. Again, approach everything with an open mind, non-biased opinion, non-judgmental, and curb the limited belief, and it will show what needs to be released. Okay. I mentioned DMT, which is dimethyltryptamine. It is a natural hormone that is secreted from the pineal gland and can also be found in plants as well. The ayahuasca plant has it, but it's also mixed with another compound that creates what today's terminology we call a psychedelic effect, because it does alter the state of psychosis into an altered state of openness and consciousness. Okay. In the Native American culture, they will use what's called peyote, or natural tobacco, a specific ceremonial tobacco that's not filled with the additive chemicals or the addictive chemicals that you'll find today in like cigarettes or cigars. Those added chemicals are designed to get you addicted to that, so that you continuously buy them, so that the revenue of those persons manufacturing can survive. Okay. Cannabis. At a certain time in history, it was heavily, heavily, heavily regulated about zero tolerance, because people were utilizing it, and they were really abusing it, because they would use it while they're driving, they would use it when they should be alert, and it actually drops the alert status of the higher processing, the critical thinking, the logic, the reasoning to make decisive decisions. Okay. Psilocybin mushrooms. Another term for that is called magic mushrooms. If you have mushrooms around your house, it's probably not the type of mushroom that you should be congesting. Again, make sure you are supervised if you are utilizing these things for spiritual practices, not recreational. Spiritual practices. Okay. Another substance that will be used is a venom from the marine toad. Yes, even species have a psychedelic substance to help alter the normal capacity of conscious, subconscious, and unconscious. Okay. This does not change your brain chemistry. It does connect to receptors. This is why it's done why it's done ceremonially and not recreational. Remember when I said if you use too much of a good thing or a positive thing? Well, this is also in that category. You use too much of something in a short amount of time and your body hasn't gone through its process to reheal itself, you can cause damage to your body your physical self, your emotional self, your mental self. This is why it's only provided through licensed and medical staffed ceremonial circles, retreats. They also know the quantity to give you. You may not know the quantity that you are able to utilize in a safe, healthy manner. They take your body weight, they take your blood pressure, they look at your medical screening to determine if you are even qualified to utilize one of these substances to alter that. Now, there are also practices that don't require a physical substance that you can still alter states of consciousness. I did want to mention those substances because you may find those in your research about altered states of consciousness and a catalyst for that. Other catalysts are foods, certain spices, herbs, teas. They have certain medicinal properties as well as properties that can alter states of consciousness. Do your due diligence, look them up thoroughly and within depth, and then cross connect what you're looking for. Okay. Fasting is a spiritual practice, as well as it can help reduce stress that you have taken on yourself. It can help accelerate the healing process within your body, within your mind field, within your emotional field. Fasting, remember, can be done in a few different ways. It can be a full fast where you have nothing but possibly water. Based on your conditioning of probably the normal method of breakfast, lunch, dinner, I would not recommend that type of fasting, especially if you're brand new to it. Intermittent fasting is basically that you fast for a certain duration and then you slowly and gradually come back to what you normally would eat or consume. Then there is a la carte. A la carte is you remove one thing that you are utilizing or consuming, and that can be a non-food source. It can be something that you might be consuming media-wise, or a break from news, a break from social media, TV, radio, certain types of music that you might have identified as this is non-conducive to my health. There is no specific definition out there for fasting of what you give up spiritually. Okay. It's a lot like the offering and tithing that is around some of the more Christian Catholic type churches, where tithing actually is not what it is that you might run into. Tithing is giving an aspect of yourself to source or to God or Great Father in the sky or whatever identifier you use. Okay, that is giving your time to, or giving something that you own to, for the production of something greater and the contributive factor of participating in the world. Okay. Offering is that which you give without the expectation of something in return. Okay. An aspect of yourself, a blessing to somebody, a love or compassion in something, in a situation or circumstance that everyone else is probably not showing a compassionate aspect to. We all have our trials, we all have our circumstances that we're going to experience, but in those trials and circumstances, we can actually trigger higher states of consciousness. Okay. Hypnotic trance practices. You might see a hypnotist, and the hypnotist is only giving you suggestions. They're not telling you that you do this. Rather, it's they go under conscious awareness, under the subconscious, and go into unconscious and they give you suggestions to bring out that which is inside of you. Okay. It might also help you recall events that you might have forgotten, or address certain traumas that was so great that you just made it disappear in some capacity, that it no longer was easily brought to your forefront, but an aspect of it might be getting triggered by some kind of stimuli in your environment. Shamanic drumming is another form of hypnotic trance. The drumming is done at a certain beat and frequency, and the sound that's coming off is coming at a certain hertz, and frequencies are measured in hertz, and it can induce a trance-like state into altered states of consciousness. And in that altered states of consciousness, you can expand your consciousness. In shamanic art, it's they call it shamanic traveling, which 3 different levels: upper earth, middle earth, lower earth. Okay, and I described a little bit more of those. I described a little bit in detail of those in a previous video. If you find the necessity of wanting to know more of that, you can go there, or you can do your due diligence and do some research on it. Sound frequencies. Sound frequencies have the capacity to alter your brainwave capacity, your frequency that you are vibrating at, your mind, your heart, your body, and shift into higher dimension of consciousness. Breath work. Remember I said we breathe in through our nose, bring it all the way down to our diaphragm, let it sit there for about 3 seconds, because the air is moving and cleaning out and clearing and removing the negative energy that we might have absorbed and kept to ourselves, that we might not be aware of, our limited beliefs that are probably creating a spiritual block or some other block in our path that we've been desiring and it's not coming. And release. Okay. Rhythmic dance. In some cultures, they would light up a fire in like a stone basin, light up a fire and dance around the fire. And this is cross-cultural. This isn't just one type of cultural lifestyle. You'll find it in Native American cultures. You'll find it in shamanic practices. You'll find it in a reference of the Bible. King David danced to show his expression of his love and compassion of God, okay, or his source that he became intimately familiar with. Okay. Isolation. You might have heard the term wilderness. Okay, that is taking you from the mundane of expectation and the go and always having to do, to being still and in a relaxed state. It's just you and in your stillness. Okay, and some will do this for days. In fact, Usui, Japanese culture, which we get Reiki from, went and did for 40 days and 40 nights an isolation period of fasting. And he kept stones in his pocket to keep count of how many days had gone by. Okay, and you can read further into that, but I'm not going to go too much into details, because I do want you to expand your knowledge. I do want you to grow with knowledge. Just knowing an aspect of something isn't enough. You have to go in depth, okay? Otherwise, nothing's going to make sense, and the patterns aren't going to connect until you get that aha moment where every single thing is clear in connecting, okay? Remember, we're not working off the basis of surface knowledge. We're working off the basis of in-depth knowledge and higher consciousness, higher objectiveness, okay? Incense. Incense can trigger smells. And in that smell category, we also have encoding of information that can be retrieved from our file cabinet. It can also induce a trance-like state into higher states of consciousness. Specific crystals. Crystals come with a certain vibratory signature that's resonating energy with it, and even though it looks like a solid structure, it is matter, solid matter, that is still vibrating at a different rate. So to us, it's a solid structure because in third dimension, it appears solid, okay? But it's actually micro atoms that are vibrating together in harmony at a specific rate to give it the solid structure, okay? Our bodies are still vibrating. Our skin, even though it's our largest outside organism, it's vibrating at different rates and different frequencies, but it doesn't pull apart. Notice? Yeah. Same thing with rocks. Crystals, they have their own unique signature. And you can go into the crystal understanding and rocks and gems out there and what their unique properties are, how closely they are associated with. And a lot of testing has occurred with these uses, just like sound frequencies. The information I'm bringing to you is because I have read the case studies and did an in-depth understanding of how it resonates with certain frequencies and certain emotions, certain mental capacities, altered states of consciousness, and balance, and promote relaxation so that accelerated healing can occur. Mindful meditation. When I talk about meditation, sometimes people will go for a walk, a meditative walk in nature. Nature can help bring you up into altered states of consciousness. Physical exercise, yoga, tai chi. When you have the intention at center, in neutral, and you're mindfully meditating on something, it can shift you into higher states of consciousness to help answer the question that has come out of you. Okay? In the higher states of consciousness, this is where we will solve most of our internal problems that we are experiencing externally, because something of that aspect is within us. Okay? You are a spiritual being having a physical life experience. Okay? You're not a physical being trying to become spiritual. You are already spiritual. You just forgot. So this isn't woohoo. This isn't New Age. This isn't occultism. This isn't any specified religion or faith circle. This is your unique self, your source self, your expressive self, in which you came and incarnated from. That's right. Before you were a physical form, you were a non-matter physical form. You were just a formless, energetic being that became incarnated into a physical body. And you have donned the emotional body. You have donned and developed the mental body, the emotional body, the physical body, and the energetic body is that which you already had. It just grew and expanded. But expanded states of consciousness, nothing to be afraid of there either. It's just helping you come to an understanding. Sorry, there was a bug that flew around my face again. In answering your greatest questions. Because like I said, you will not find an answer out there to your greatest question. That question is designed to come out of you, and the answer rests within you beyond the veil of illusion of physicality. In altered states of consciousness, you are actually jumping into non-ordinary reality, which means that what you perceive in the altered state of consciousness, other people around you do not perceive the same thing. So they may think that you are hallucinating, or that you're talking to invisible people or creatures, because they're not seeing what you are seeing, because they're not in your body seeing what you are seeing or hearing what you are hearing. It's okay. It's completely, absolutely spiritually normal. Okay? Nothing to be afraid of. You become fearless when you are empowered with true knowledge. Then there's nothing else out there to be afraid of. We fear what we don't know. Okay? And we stay in the pattern of what we think we do know, and we never grow. But something will come to us and put us back on the path of growing, which means that an experience will come in that has some aspect that is within you that needs addressing so that you can grow and evolve higher. Transfiguration. Transfiguration is when you have absolved all of the identities and labels that are in your file cabinet that do not belong to you. And your true essence is the front seat. That is the transfiguration. Your body's not changing. Your structure is still the same, with one exception. Your cellular structure within you can transmute, transform, and transfigure based on your thoughts, your emotion, your belief in what someone tells you, and your higher states of consciousness. Go research some of those. Go see how far you actually want to go into knowing who you are. To know thyself is the beginning of all knowledge. I bid you a great day. I love you. Be well, be well, be well.